I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us, a return trip by the author of this book from the Company of Shadows. It's Kevin Shipp. Of course, he's a former CIA officer, super high clearance, protected. William Casey was one of his jobs at the CIA. He's a whistleblower. They've tried to kill him for some of the things that he's brought out. He's an expert in counterintelligence. Being able to protect the CIA director and actually stay in his house. You have to have a very high clearance. So he's a guy in the know, a real guy. Kevin Shipp, thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Hey, Greg, it's always great to be with you.
And just so you know, his website, The Love of Freedom, this book, which he says is backordered and is a couple of time bestseller on Amazon. He says he's having a hard time keeping up with it. Fantastic book. You want to know what the CIA thinks and how they live, breathe, eat, and what they do? There you go. And what the deep state is, that it's real. This book, and I'm under no obligation to get nothing for this. I just think it's he's a fascinating guest with a fascinating story to tell. And back to you. I wanted to just kind of talk to you about, wow, what a week last week. I mean, the House got sworn in, and it to me, I mean, I'm looking at how I can analyze this. And it looks to me like you're not getting a wall. They know there's a problem at the border. They've offered, I don't know, 25, 30, 40 $million in the past to Democrats. For a wall structure, not just drones and whatever. Ocasio-Cortez, the darling of we'll get into that. She wants a 70% tax. We have one of the latest Muslim female lawmaker sworn in, says to a crowd of people, we're going to impeach that MFer. I don't think she understands the Constitution. It looks to me, I mean, also articles of impeachment on the first day, and then Pelosi saying, well, it's not, we shouldn't do a political impeachment. Anyway, I guess the stage I'm setting up is it just looks to me like we're in some sort of pre-Civil War or covert Civil War or overt soft Civil War. What's your appraisal about where we are in America?
No, I would say yes, Greg. We are in a soft Civil War, and the ones that are starting this Civil War, and they've gotten more aggressive almost by the day, are what you call the dark left, the DNC, which is no longer the party of JFK, the deep state, and the shadow government is at war against the founding principles of this country. And they're at war specifically with Donald Trump because he has actually stood in the face of the deep state and in the face of the Congress and Senate, which is riddled with corruption. And this dark left Civil War that they've started is intensifying, as I said, almost by the day. And then you've got the rest of Americans out there, good, patriotic, God and country people that are the other side of this Civil War. And usually they're peaceful and they keep their mouths shut. But they're not. I think most people in the notes and emails that I get, they're fed up with what these people are doing. And the ultimate goal, of course, is the Constitution itself, which they believe is written by bigoted old European white men. And their target is the Constitution, and their target are the founding principles of freedom and faith in the Constitution. That is their target.
Well, I mean, what their real target is Marxism, communism. I mean, look at Tom Perez. I sit there and talk to Democrats. Says, you know who's leading your party, right? He's a former LaRouche attorney, the race, a LaRouche attorney. I mean, this is Marxism. And up until recently, Keith Edelson became the honored attorney general of Minnesota or Michigan. I can't remember which state it was. One of those two states. Anyway, he was the number two. He's partial to the Muslim Brotherhood.
Well, he's directly connected to the Muslim Brotherhood. And of course, we now know that he has been charged with beating, I guess, his girlfriend. But, he was just practicing Sharia law, which teaches men that if their girlfriend doesn't submit, they're to beat them. So Keith was just practicing Sharia law, and he needs to be charged and held accountable for that.
Let me, the whole thing about this Ocasio-Cortez, there's a reason why they put her out. I mean, she's, I don't know. She doesn't seem very experienced to me. She's the youngest woman to be elected to Congress. She did surprise a New York congressman in her race. She wants to have a 70% tax. She wants Medicare for everyone. She wants to pay off all college debt to be paid off. I mean, but there's a reason why they have a young Hispanic, I guess relatively attractive, somebody that is photogenic. But the reason why they're putting her out there is because if you criticize her, you're a racist. I mean,
sure.
is that the same kind of ploy they had with Barack Obama? He didn't have the same credentials as Sarah Palin. She was a governor of a state. He was a 2-time senator, and before that, a community organizer. So,
he was a fan.
But any criticism of Obama, and I remember this went on and on almost from the time, especially in the first 4 years, you were a cracker. You were a racist.
Well, and you know, Greg, my response to that back then to the Republicans in Congress was, you're a bunch of cowards because you're so afraid that you're going to be labeled a racist that you just sit back with no spine and do nothing. Some of the others of us, like yourself and Dave Janda and others, came out and exposed Obama for who he was because we don't care about those threats. We care about our country. But the Congress and especially the GOP just retreated back in the shadows. Oh, we don't want to be called a racist, so we're not going to try to expose who Obama is. You know, shame on them.
Well, okay. I wanted to say this too. It's raining down there. And you have some sort of a structure, a studio that you've got built, and it's pouring down, so it sounds like static. So just so folks, you out there, this is rain hitting the roof of your location, correct? Okay. So it looks like Ocasio-Cortez. It looks like she is carrying the water for the Democrats as a type of. I mean, what they're talking about is full-on communism.
Well,
They're
Greg,
full on.
Tell you, I think Ocasio-Cortez is going to, just in my view, she's going to be a problem for Nancy Pelosi. She voted against or opposed Nancy Pelosi in the beginning, did not want her Speaker of the House. And of course, they turned her and, you do this or you lose your seat. But I have to tell you, it's kind of fun to watch her because she is so out of the box. She's so out of the box that I think even the DNC and the Democratic senators and congressmen and Pelosi herself, I think they got a handful. They brought her in thinking it was going to help their progressive cause, but they may have brought in a handful.
Well, what they want to do is have communism. I mean, I've been saying this for years, and I actually had people write me and say, "Oh, you're being a little heavy-handed saying the Democrats are like communists." What? No, I'm not. No, look who runs it. I mean, what they want. They don't want the Constitution. They don't want the way we're doing business. They want a one-party rule. They want communism. I mean, if Hillary would have won, people like you and me would be in FEMA camps, would we not?
Well, yeah, and let me make this point because it's very important. What progressivism is, they call themselves progressives. And if you look at the platform of progressivism, it is eliminating the founding principles of this country, making the Constitution a quote-unquote living document so they can change it, restricting the First Amendment, and then everything that the progressive movement itself states is Marxist. So progressivism is the same thing as Marxism. I'd encourage people to go out and check that out for themselves. These people, the progressives, are actually practicing Marxism, just a fact.
If you hold on just a minute here. If you take a look at what their for example their tax plan. I mean, or if she put out this tax plan that we had to raise taxes to 70%. 70. What about state and local on top of that? You'd be working for the Communist Party, would you not?
Yes, you would, and it would destroy our economy.
Do you think that she is going to be a force to be? Is she really exposing? Let me put it this way: Is she really exposing the Democrats for what they are?
Yeah, I think she is, and she being totally inexperienced, immature, never having done this sort of thing before. She's just blabbing off at her mouth, but what she's doing is just blabbing off progressive principles that Pelosi and others have been trying to largely hide from the public. And now they got somebody a little out of control that is just coming right out and saying what they're doing that they've been trying to hide for the last couple of decades. And I think they got a handful on their hands.
What about the economy and what's been going on in the markets? I mean, you have days where the futures are down 400 points and it closes up. You have days where the futures are up overnight, and in overseas, and it closes down. You've got one day it's down 600 points, and up 600 points, or go from a positive to negative, an 800 point swing. What, in your estimation, is going on? Are they trying to? The deep state, are they trying to break up the economy to try to thwart Donald Trump?
Well, let's put it this way, Greg. Under Barack Obama, the Federal Reserve did not raise interest rates one time. As soon as Trump was elected, they'd raised them 4 times, which we all know has a dramatic effect on the economy. We know that the Federal Reserve is not federal and it has no reserves. It is staffed by international bankers and banks on their secret board with secret meetings. Trump's economy is booming. There's one way to stop that and make him look bad and responsible, and that's to raise interest rates, destroy the stock market. So the Federal Reserve is behind a lot of this, quite a bit of it, and I think it is without a doubt part of the deep state.
Do you think that he has an executive order out about trafficking, human trafficking, and corruption, and that he has to protect the economy? I have it here someplace. He has to. I have it right here. Okay, that executive order blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption to protect the financial system of the United States. A national emergency to deal with that threat that has been re-upped. He's got a national emergency about people who are trying to destroy the financial system. What's their goal? What do they want to do?
Well, the human trafficking thing goes up to high levels in our government and internationally, especially in the UK. Child trafficking and pedophilia is rampant. And you remember Dennis Hastert, who was third in line for the presidency as the Speaker of the House, was a serial pedophile. So a lot of these elites and executives are pedophiles. I know, because we polygraphed some corporate heads. Donald Trump this is brilliant because he's going after their financial underpinning, meaning he can bring down their entire organization and bring down the elites responsible for this horrendous stuff. And they're just another reason they want to destroy him. Because a lot of them are being exposed. The number of resignations and firings since he's been in office is mind-boggling.
Do you think it has to do with that? Do you think it has to do with, in part, that?
There's no question, and I got a source, a good one, that there's a blackmail ring within Congress. Pedophilia is part of it. You remember the Lolita Express, Bill Clinton went on 21 times. To what was called Orgy Island, where they had young girls taking care of government officials, both on the plane and off the plane. Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of child trafficking, got a incredibly light sentence, and unbelievably light sentence. And I think he's even out now. And they minimized all the charges. So
wait. When you say young girls, you're not talking about 20.
You're talking 14, 15 years old.
You're talking about pedophilia.
Yeah. These guys, these elites, like young kids, man. We're talking little girls, 14 and 15 years old. Some of these perverts prefer that because they're sick. They just happen to be rich and in positions of power.
And you say that this is going on over in the UK as well.
Oh, yeah.
You think it goes all the way up to the royal family?
All the way up to the parliament and the royal family, yes.
And you know that as a CIA operative, this is stuff that's known in your circles and your sources.
Well, a lot of people say that the CIA traffics in children. When I was in there, and I had multiple positions in all the directorates, I never saw that. I'm saying this from the sources and contacts that I have that are directly connected, especially the blackmail rings. So this doesn't come from my CIA background at all. It comes from the research and the contacts that I have.
If you were talking about how you would go after these people and take them down, you're saying that that these indictments, you've heard about the indictments, correct?
Yeah.
And you think they're real?
No.
You don't think they're real?
I do not. Whether they're 40,000 or something.
60,000.
60,000. No, I do not think they're real.
You don't think they're real? Why? No. What's the deal with that?
there's absolutely no evidence. There are some documents out there that, in my view, appear doctored. There are going to be indictments, but there's not 40,000. You may be talking 15 or so, but no.
15 as in 15,000 or 15 indictments?
15 indictments of officials within our government. John Brennan, Hillary Clinton, people within the FBI, possibly James Comey. But no, I do not think that these 40,000 indictments. I hate to say that. I wish they were. We all do. But
you don't think so?
No, I don't.
What do you say to the people? They're going to come on and say, "Oh, no, they're real. The indictments are real." I don't know. I have not done the research, and I don't follow Q. Yeah. I don't follow Q because I like real people, and I don't do anonymous sources. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just saying I don't follow it because it's hard to, source that. But anyway, but you're saying
go by evidence, and the research that I've done on this, of course, initially wishing it was true. The research that I've done on this has led me to the conclusion that it is not the case.
Do you think that Donald Trump is going to make a move on this declassification of FISA, which would ensnare some real people who signed off on a completely bogus, false, phony, failed coup? He could do that. Do you think he's going to declassify the FISA documents? Think that's real?
I do, because he's been doing things like that. I think, just in my opinion, he's been waiting to get a good attorney general in there that will back up what he's doing. Trump is a maverick, and that's one of the things I like about him. He doesn't scare easy. So yes, I do think he's going to declassify those. He's a strategist. There's no doubt about that. So apparently he's waiting for the right time to do this. But yeah, I think he will.
Do you think he has? Do you think he? Because some people say, "Oh, nobody's going to be arrested. Nothing's going to happen." I have had Dr. Dave Jandal. He's got pretty high sources, and I know of them, and I can't tell you how. But anyway, I can't. But I know they're high sources, and he says that the hammer is going to drop, and it's probably going to be this year. But he has to do it, otherwise his family will be imprisoned or molested or murdered, or his whole family. I mean, look what happened to JFK's family and immediate family. Yeah. Anybody that can run for president. Right. So does he have to come out and attack the deep state at some point and have the Trump pyre strike back?
Trump is attacking the deep state. There's no question about that.
I mean, right now, it's attacking it now.
He's attacking it right now, yes. Syria is a good example of that.
Let's talk about Syria. Just so people know that you are an expert on, I brought up the book here, but you talk about that too, the company's shadows, the deep state. You talk about the deep state. You talk about the shadow government. You talk about all that. We were talking in the pre-interview, and I said, doesn't appear to me, because some people say, oh, he's a globalist, and he's with the deep state, and he's just there doing their bidding. It doesn't appear to me he got out of the Paris Climate Accord, the TPP. He dogged the phony Iran deal that nobody signed off on and took bribes on in this country and other countries. He's now backing our troops out of Syria. Tell me what that means for him to say, yeah, we're pulling out of Syria, we're done.
Well, he just spit right in the face of the military-industrial complex. If you remember, Syria started when Hillary Rodham Clinton, Secretary of State at the time, covertly, secretly ran guns into Benghazi using Qatar and Saudi Arabia as a cutout. The CIA, the Obama administration, and Secretary Clinton armed what is called the Free Syrian Army, claiming they were moderates. I'll tell you right now, there's no such thing as a moderate Islamic army. But anyway, they didn't care. That wasn't the goal. The goal has been within the shadow government deep state for at least 20 years has been to remove Bashar Assad and the Assads from power in Syria. There's gas there, there's oil there, it's a strategic position. Gas and oil is usually the impetus for the CIA going in and overturning a government down through history. So that was the goal in Syria, was to get Assad out of there using the Free Syrian Army, arming the Free Syrian Army.
Which is a felony to arm terrorists, right?
Yeah. Yes, it's a violation of U.S. and international law. Yeah, they didn't think they were going to get caught, and the killing of Ambassador Stevens and the attack on the consulate, that was just a moment. They were terrified because they thought it was going to expose their gun running, which eventually it did. So and I told my wife this when Trump first got in, there are two things that I'm watching. Number one, he pulls support from the Free Syrian Army. They went up and massacred an entire village of Christians in Syria that were being protected by Assad, by the way. The U.S.-backed Free Syrian Army massacred them all. I told my wife that there are two things I'm watching for Trump to see if he's actually confronting the deep state. One, he pulls support for the Free Syrian Army. He did that, and I said, wow. Two, pull troops out of Syria and stop that regime change and the trillions that the military-industrial complex and congressmen and senators through their donations stand to gain from this, which is what it's all about. If he pulls out of Syria, that is a direct slap in the face of the shadow government and the deep state, and he did it. And as again, he put himself at serious risk in doing so, but it appears that the man is fearless.
What about that? Might be more than 10 or 15 people get indicted. I mean, you had Obama, in his. I mean, we're talking about. This is unparalleled in human history. I mean, the crimes, the gun running, the nuke deal with Iran, with C-130s multiple, pallets of money flying in, the arming of terrorists, just unbelievable. Just the Mueller who was involved and knew full well that the Russians were gaming the United States in Operation Power or Operation something. It's had a name for the thing to gain control of 20% of uranium production. Total treason. I mean, the Clinton Foundation. We haven't even got into that. I mean, we found out. So there's going to be multiple. There's going to be big indictments, right?
Yeah, and let me go down the list. Just in my mind, both Clintons are going to be indicted. I don't think there's any question about that. There are members of the Clinton Foundation that are going to be indicted. Barack Obama, in my opinion. Now, these are rich, powerful people that have a lot of global protection. That's why it's so difficult. But I think eventually, just because Trump has the guts to do it, that Barack Obama is going to be indicted, that Mueller is probably going to be indicted for his treasonous activity. John Brennan will, I am absolutely convinced John Brennan will be indicted himself, and possibly James Clapper and James Comey. I think it's pretty certain that he will be indicted. You got Rod Rosenstein, probably not. McCabe will be indicted. Strzok will probably be indicted for obstruction of justice in the Clinton email case. These are the people I'm talking about, high-level people. And then there are people in the Congress and the Senate that were complicit with some of these things, especially the Clinton Foundation, that will be indicted also. So yeah, there's going to be. I can't put a number on it, but those are the ones that I think clearly, without question, are going to be indicted.
When you're talking about the indictments, do you think it could go up even higher? I've had Janda on. He says, "Listen, I'm not going to stop with just with Obama and the Clintons and Clapper and Comey, and they're not going to stop with that. They're going to go after their handlers. They're going to go after the Rockefellers, the Pacor, the George Soroses of the world. They're going to go after the Rothschilds. They're going to go after a lot of people. That's what this confiscation executive order is all about. Do you think that this is going to go up very high, and they're going to confiscate what could be hundreds of billions, if not trillions, of dollars in wealth?
Well, yes, that's why it's so brilliant that Trump, instead of, and he's arrested thousands of pedophiles already. Many of them are college professors. So they're actually making arrests, but the executive order that he put out takes it to a whole new level, because they can go after organizations and wealthy individuals and their connections and nail them at the very top. That's why that executive order is so brilliant.
And we're talking about this here, which I printed out. This is just part of it. This is on whitehouse.gov, folks.
Yeah.
So this is not some crazy time. But it is, going after serious human trafficking and corruption and persons in protected financial system of the United States, a national emergency. Nobody in the mainstream, bought off phony press would even bring this up to Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
And Greg, there's one important line in there. He's calling it a national security emergency. And that was intentional. Once a president labels something as that, he can bring in the military, he can bring in what's left of intelligence, he can bring all of the government entities into play to attack human trafficking. That is huge.
So if they don't get you for the actual treason of the other stuff, and you're involved in human trafficking and you're doing terrible things to children, they're going to get you for that, and they're going to take your assets. I mean, a lot of people say, where are they going to get the money? And I'm thinking maybe, and you're thinking that this is going to be a monster deal. That they're going. Oh wow! And they're going to confiscate trillions of dollars.
Yes.
In other words, you don't get to keep the money you stole.
No, you don't get to keep the money you stole, and the money that you have made from human trafficking, that is going to be taken, and your entire organization from the top, including these elite, are also going to be taken. They're taking the money from them and basically removing the financial power of their organization, which is the way to do it. You know, it's like you don't go after the person snorting coke necessarily. You go after the drug dealer that's selling it and the kingpin. Same thing with human trafficking. That's what Trump has done. Is they're going after the elite kingpins that are promoting and making money off human trafficking.
And you know, you said something to me. It's shocking and revealing. One of our interviews, you said, well, you know, actually, there's more money in human trafficking. I mean, if you have a line of coke, you do it, and it's gone. You have an 8-year-old girl or boy, and wow, that can last for years.
Yeah.
And then you can harvest their organs.
That's right. Yeah. There's
am I wrong?
More revenue in human trafficking than there is in drug trafficking. That's making.
That's just so gross. It's okay. Some tip-offs. I don't know if you know this or not. So Donald Trump made some comment. This is one of his own tweets now, saying you should just sit back and enjoy the ride. Something to that effect. Does that mean this is all going to come down sooner than later? Bob Corker, the former senator, goes, it's going to be a very interesting next 3 months. Bob Corker, the former senator from out of Tennessee, who stepped down. Do you think that are those signals that something's going to happen soon?
Yes, I think definitely so.
What do your sources say? What do you say? What do your sources say? What's your read?
Yeah, well, my read, based on what I've been privy to, yes, it is going to happen very soon. It's going to be swift, and it's going to be dramatic. And next 3 to 6 months, I would say they're going to start taking some of these people down, and it's going to be historic.
Explain.
Well, I mean, they're going to be perp walking people from the CIA, high-level people from the CIA, the FBI, and congressmen and senators. They're going to be perp walking these people, indicting and arresting them. And it is so sensitive because it will cause a constitutional crisis in that these positions and seats will be vacant and they'll have to be filled. That's what I mean, historic. That these are people at the highest levels of our government. This is the swamp. I think it's even more disgusting than that. That's why I think 48 Republicans have retired or not seeking re-election. Come on, man. So yeah, that's why it's going to be historic, because essentially it's a constitutional crisis that there's going to be indictments of high-level government officials and elected officials.
And this came up with the Lindsey Graham talking about military tribunals with Judge Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a bizarre exchange that went on for, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes. Was really bizarre. And what have you heard about Gitmo? Did they do all this upgrade to Gitmo, make it bigger and have barges and all that? I mean, they have enhanced tremendously the capacity, the holding capacity of Gitmo. Is that like Guantanamo Bay? Is that what you've heard also? Is that?
Yeah, they've modernized it and they've upgraded it.
You think some of these people are going to go to Gitmo?
I don't know. I would suspect they'd be tried within the United States in the court system. I don't think they go. That's just my opinion. They could under military tribunals. They certainly could. I think it would probably be handled by our justice system, but that's just my opinion. And what's funny about Lindsey Graham? Lindsey Graham was joined at the hip with John McCain. Hated Trump. Hawk, pro-war, wanted to be in Syria. He was pounding on Trump all the time about the wall. As soon as McCain dies, Lindsey Graham does a 180-degree turn in support of Trump, in support of the wall. Now he's saying that he thinks the withdrawal from Syria was probably a good decision. He has become almost a different man.
What's changed?
what's changed is he's now supporting Trump instead of going around with McCain and trying to destroy him on every TV program they could get on. And why does that coincide with the death of John McCain? I mean, what in the world is going on there? Now he's become more supportive of Trump and Trump's moves and the wall and everything else, which he used to decry along with McCain. So it's just very odd.
What about the press? We talked about the press. We had Strzok and Page. Strzok was the #2 counterintelligence person. So I keep reminding people, this is not some field FBI agent. This is not some guy down in, Keokuk, Iowa, in an office somewhere out of the way. This is the #2 counterintelligence person, which, right? I mean, and he was dealing with Lisa Page, who I believe was Andrew McCabe's attorney or counsel.
Right.
Okay, so... and they're talking about the media leak strategy and how did they get General Flynn? They leaked it out. They also had at the All Out War, the best-selling author Edward Klein, saying that they had a plan hatched on December 16th. His sources that they're going to unmask all these people. And what do? They use the media to unmask. They got all these people, including Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. So the media was part of a leak strategy.
Absolutely.
Do they don't have a First Amendment exemption to leak classified information and to engage in sedition and treason, do they? I mean, that's what we're talking about here, right?
That's correct. And no, they don't. I did a show, we called it Operation Mockingbird 2.0, where both the Department of Justice and the CIA, like they've been doing, have been using the mainstream media to leak information and control the perception of the American people. That's what they've been doing. It's the same Operation Mockingbird that's always been there, where the CIA and the FBI has been selectively leaking to the media to get certain information out to alter the opinions of the American people. That is really an abominable operation against the American people themselves.
And then this is not just, they're not just leaking stuff. They know that this is part of a plan. They are complicit in the plan.
Yes. And Greg, this is the deep state, the shadow government. This has been around for probably 60 years. This thing and these elites have been around doing this. And the only reason that we're seeing this is one person, Donald Trump, has caused all of these ugly snakes to have their heads come up out of the swamp where people can see them. It's the first president. I was a big fan of Ronald Reagan, of course, but Ronald Reagan didn't do anything against the swamp, sadly. So Trump is the first president to actually do this, and these people are being exposed out in the open to the American people, and people are starting to get it.
I wanted I'm going to bring this to a close here pretty soon, but I wanted to bring up something you put on your fortheloveoffreedom.net, your website, which we'll talk a little bit about it, and you can get on it and also buy the book there too. But you brought up Operation Phoenix, where you have information about a mass murder, a genocide, where they used a special pistol, an Operation Phoenix assassination pistol, where they killed 40,000 communists in Vietnam. They'd arrest them and they'd shoot them in the back of the head, or they'd go to their front door and they'd shoot anybody who answered the door. And they buried all these assassination pistols, and you have this on your site. So you can go look at the pistol and take a look at your presentation on there. But wow, that is absolutely unbelievable that you're releasing this. I mean, they want to kill you. They've tried to kill you in the past. I don't want to emphasize that because, I don't want to be over dramatic, but I don't think I am. I think they've tried to kill you on more than one occasion. And now that you've just given them another reason to, at least the dark players in the CIA, to want to kill you because you're a whistleblower. Tell me about Operation Phoenix briefly, and the assassination of 40,000 communists in Vietnam.
Yeah, sure. And they have been doing this to me now for about 18 years, and I got fed up with it. And I said, okay, you want to play by those rules, then I'll just release the abominable things that you've done that I've witnessed. And the question was, why in the world did the CIA go after me with such a vengeance? Well, this is why. Because I had knowledge of this evidence buried on this site. Operation Phoenix, they assassinated 40,000 Vietnamese citizens just because they were suspected of communism. And the pistols, called deer guns, were all buried at the site where I was the executive officer, the second in command. I held these deer guns in my hand. They're very. First thing I was amazed. They're very odd-looking single-shot pistols where they put them in the back of the head of the target and just blow their brains out. These assassination pistols were buried at the site where I was. They started percolating up to the surface of the ground. It's like even Mother Nature was disgusted and started spitting them out. But I held them in my hand. They were calcified because they'd been buried so many years ago. So what the CIA did was basically engage in a program of genocide and then take the evidence, the smoking gun, and bury it at the site. I found out about that and several other things. There's a couple of, I think the New York Times, Charlie Savage really actually did a pretty good job on some of the other things they were doing there. That's the smoking gun for Operation Phoenix, and these assassination pistols were buried at the site where I was. I found them. I handled them in my hand. I was briefed on what they were, and it's an absolute abomination. So I finally decided to come out and expose this so people know how bloody and deceitful the CIA is. It is not James Bond, never has been, never will be. They've been involved in genocide, coups against democratic governments, and on and on and on it goes. So I just released this because I'm fed up, and people need to know this horrible program the CIA did and then tried to bury the evidence from our government and from the American people.
And this is new. I mean, this is how long have you had this on your site?
I put this on my site, I think, 4 days ago.
That's stunning information that
Yes.
you had a 40,000 person genocide back in the Vietnam War era, where they had a special pistol to shoot people in the back of the head. I mean, if it wasn't you and you a former CIA, a high-ranking officer with a super high security clearance, I would go, oh come on, that just sounds. That just didn't even sound real, but it is. Are you fearful of your life for releasing this?
Yeah, I'm in quite a bit of danger. I've been in this position now for 18 years or so. This is going to cause a huge explosion, and humbly, what I've just revealed is the existence of Operation Phoenix and where the skeletons are buried. And yeah, that's huge, but people need to. My mission is to let the public know the truth of what the CIA has done as a witness to that. And yes, I'm in grave danger now. I take a lot of security precautions, but that's just the way it is.
Which tells me what's changed since then. What has changed? And I guess there's no real motivation for there to be any changes at the CIA if they've done this and covered it up, right?
Oh, they're continuing to do the same thing that they were with Operation Phoenix. They're still in Syria, the Free Syrian Army, CIA-backed Free Syrian Army. There have been 500,000 Syrian civilians that have been killed. So it goes on and on and on. The CIA needs to be investigated, needs to be taken apart, and an organization needs to be put together, which Truman originally intended, and that is an organization that just provides intelligence to the president and policymakers, and not this dark, murderous operational side of the CIA that has done so many horrific things.
What's your prognosis for 2019? Now that you've brought that out, what's your prognosis for 2019? How do you think that are we going to get involved in some sort of, I don't know, Mad Max scenario where the credit seizes up and we all have the yield curve? It looks like it's flattening or at least inverting. I have friends of mine in the financial system that say that there's danger, warning. I mean, this is a danger. What do you think is going to happen in 2019?
2019 is going to be a rough year. I think we are heading for a financial collapse. There's no doubt about that. And with the Fed raising the interest rates, the stock market going up and down in incredible spikes and valleys, that may be the spark for this civil war, the economy going into a serious recession, which will heat things up as recessions and depressions always do. The battles and the war in Washington is going to get unbelievable, and I think our economy is heading for a pretty serious recession.
Do you think that outside forces would attack the United States, or just let us mix it up and sort it out? What do you suppose the outside forces, China, Russia, would do?
China, especially, I think, as they see us weaken, I think there is a possibility they would attack us. Now we have to remember that we're in debt to China, I think $4.2 trillion. So if China was to hurt us, they'd be hurting their own economy and drive them into depression. But the only way around that is war, and they're building up as Russia is, but China is building up their war, their stations, their arms, their new supersonic missiles, as is Russia. And it appears that they're preparing for war. We all know the foolishness of mankind. I think the nuclear clock now is 2 minutes to 12. I hate to say it, but I think there's going to be eventually a nuclear conflict. Man is foolish, and China and Russia are preparing to oppose the United States, and they're also preparing, and you don't hear this much in the media, they're also preparing to stop recognizing the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency, and perhaps recognize the yuan instead. If they stop recognizing the dollar as a world reserve currency, we go down. Our economy goes down.
Do you? I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm just going to hang on here because I'm not going to cut it off. Hold on. Let me get over here. Some people think that we're going to get a currency reset, that Donald Trump is going to be forced to reset the currency, which is really resetting the debt, which is, phenomenal. I mean, we had Dr. Mark Skidmore from the University of Michigan State University with his "we're missing 21 trillion missing money." At the DOD and HUD, which, of course, the Washington Post, the enemy of the people, did a story and said it was just all canceled out. It's not a big deal, which is totally false. According to Dr. Mark Skidmore, a professor of economics and expert in public finance. So do you think that that Donald Trump and his team are going to be forced into a currency reset to protect the dollar, a backing by gold, or backing by our GDP, oil? We're now a big producer of oil. Do you think there's some sort of reset coming sooner than later in terms of the currency?
Yes, I do. I do, because if they don't, it's going to be horrible if the dollar loses its reserve status. Yes, I think they will absolutely do that. And by the way, this 21 trillion missing dollars, that doubles our deficit. Our deficit now is about 22 trillion. If you add that missing 21 trillion, then our deficit is actually double what is being said in public. There's something very, very serious going on with that 21 trillion. I have my own opinions as to where it went, but yeah, I think there will be a reset.
What does that look like to the guy on the street when you say reset? What does that look like? The dollar plummets in value? Do we have a new treasury dollar? Does our dollar plummet in value? The Federal Reserve notes that we are holding, does that plummet by 50% or 80%, or I don't know what happened? Or do they just do away with it? What does it look like to the guy on the street when you talk about a reset of the currency?
First of all, the dollar plummets in value, which of course is going to affect everybody's financial life in this country. They'll devalue the dollar, which is going to take us into a very serious recession, perhaps even a depression. If China and Russia make their move to recognize the yuan as the world currency, that'll make it even worse. As I said before, I think one of the things people need to really be aware of is we are heading for a serious financial crisis.
And so what would the common guy do? What would the guy on the street, because they won't listen. People tell me, they'll write me this: hey, what's a guy with a house payment, which no money down, and a car payment, and what's the little guy? Listen, I don't have a painless way for you to work this out and live your life. But what do you think that the little guy? What's going to happen to him, and what should they do? What should they do? Should they buy food, or should they buy gold? Should they get their car title? I don't know. What should they do?
Well, yeah, you have to remember, every time the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, that means the interest rates go up on our credit cards, interest goes up on our mortgages, interest goes up on our car loans. So what people are paying for those things is increasing because the Fed is increasing the base interest rate. So it's going to affect everybody seriously. I would say, number one, get out of all debt. just plan on starting now. I know some people have $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 mortgages. That's really gonna hurt them when the recession hits. I would say get out of all debt any way that you can. There's a lot of people that I live on an off-the-grid farm where we grow all of our own stuff, where we have our own electricity. And we started preparing for this 3 years ago. And not everybody can do that. But I would encourage people to start getting ready in any way they can. And the first thing to do is get out of debt. Don't buy a new car. Don't buy a new house if you can get around that, because that's where people are going to get hurt so badly, is going to be in debt.
And what happens to the actual dollars we have? Are they going to introduce a new currency? Do you have any information on that at all? Are they going to have a new dollar, a treasury dollar? Or are they going to have two currencies at the same time? What's going to happen with that? Do you know?
I haven't heard a thing about that. I think the devaluation of the dollar will come first. And what they do after that, I have no information at all.
And that'll be devaluing against gold.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're talking about? I mean, it has to be. I mean, so
yeah.
would land prices go up? So real estate could go down as interest rates went up.
Yeah. Oh, land will go up because land is an asset that never changes and is always there. That's why we see people like Bill Gates buying up huge acreage of lands down south where they grow onions and other things, because they know that land is the only asset that is not going to be destroyed by what's coming financially. And so that's what they're doing. I would encourage people, if you can buy land, an acre, 10 acres, 50 acres, do it. Buy land. Land is the only investment left that is tangible that you can hold on to. And of course, you can build your own house on that, start your own solar powered electrical system and other things. But if you're going to do something, buy land.
What about gold and silver? What do you think about that?
Of course, gold is always valuable. But if you remember, back in the World War, gold, you can't eat gold. And so if there's no food in the grocery stores, what happened after the Second World War is the rich people went out and they paid gold for lettuce and broccoli. They paid the farmers gold for food. So land and food and electricity and heating is first. Gold is good to have. It's real wealth. I wonder if Trump stays in office. I don't think this will happen, but if he doesn't, like FDR did, they may make having gold illegal. And shockingly, back then they started confiscating people's gold. So yeah, gold is good. It's valuable. It'll always be valuable. You can trade with it, but you can't eat it. So that's just a lesson from history, that don't rely just on gold.
Just make sure you have stuff. Make sure you have stuff, and stuff that's yours and paid for.
Stuff that is yours and paid for and paid off.
Oh, boy, that's just freaking me out. So, and you think it's coming? Is it going to be late? This is coming sooner than later. What your feeling is that the reset of the dollar, of the debt, is what it is going to come sooner than later.
Yeah, I would estimate, because these things tend to go slower, at least in my experience, than you would think. I would estimate that this will all really start coming apart. The political side is going to start within the next couple of months, 2-3 months. A political war is going to start then. The financial decline, I think, will probably hit just shy of a year.
So you got some. We have some time to
yes.
work, but you don't think I mean, some people think the reset's going to have to happen, early in the year. That it's going to have to happen sooner than later. And you're saying that you could be a year.
Yes.
It could, and then again, it could not be. Depends on what might happen, might transpire.
Yeah, I mean, these things, as any stock market analyst will tell you, they're very hard to predict when they're going to happen. There's no question that we're going to enter into a financial crisis. No question. But as all the analysts will tell you, the problem is trying to figure out when, because it's so volatile. It's coming. I think it's coming sooner than you would think. But I would say no, not in the next few months. By the end of the year, I think we're going to see some serious financial problems.
Well, we could get financial problems if he starts prosecuting people and perp walking, very weak. We could destabilize things. I don't know. I think he's bought time with all this. I just think that that we're in there's so much going on in the background, Kevin, that you just don't know all the stuff going on. You know, the 41 funeral and the stuff being passed out.
That was bizarre.
That was bizarre. I mean, that was not a fun thing for those folks to get. But you, I think the financial war, I think the political war started on the first day the new Congress was sworn in. I mean,
it did, and at full blast. Yeah.
So 2019 year for you, is it going to be a year of turmoil and change?
It's going to be a year of turmoil and change. Yes.
Well, Kevin Shipp, thanks for coming on. One last thing. I wanted to get your appraisal of this. I'm just thinking of this as I go along. You know, the government shut down, and it's almost as if the president doesn't want people in Washington, that he wants as many people out of Washington as possible, because, you know, you shut down all these museums and all this, you know, stuff on the periphery, and, you know, people aren't driving into Washington to come to work. Do you think that's being done on purpose? Is there another ulterior motive by the president to? I know we need a border wall. I wanted to talk about that real quick too, because I got you here. I'm sorry. I'm going to go on. I'm going to extend this. Do you think there's a reason why there's another motive to keep the government shut down, to keep Washington cleared out for some sort of action that he may take?
I think he's dug in and he's fighting the dark side. They're claiming now they don't want a wall and won't fund it. They're trying to flex their muscles and exert their power. And I think he has dug in against them, and he's conveying to them a message that I'm going to have a wall and you're not going to stop me. So we'll just take this as long as we can. I think it's about his promise, his campaign promise, and what he knows about what's coming across the border is why he's digging in on the wall. The wall is critical. The Democrats don't want a wall because if they approve it, that means Trump won something and they lost, and it'll make Trump look really good. So that's why they're trying to stop it. But he's, with his maverick-like personality, he's dug in his heels, and this is a major campaign promise. We're going to have a wall. That's where the fight is.
And can't he just have the military do it? At some point, he can say, okay, listen, this is a national security issue. I got a big military budget with a bunch of discretionary spending. I'm going to have a wall. I mean, can he do that?
He can do that, and I hope he does.
And so do you think he'll play this out long enough to say, okay, we've reached an impasse. So here's what I've decided to do. Congress will not protect the southern border. We have all kinds of stuff coming in, terrorists, drug trafficking, human trafficking. So I'm going to have the military build. So he's going to take this out until he can say, I tried. Now I'm going to use my power as president in the executive branch to build a wall with the discretionary funds that I control right now. Or am I crazy?
No, boom, that's it.
You think that's his plan?
Absolutely.
Wow. So we're going to get a wall no matter what, in your estimation?
Yes, I think we will.
Okay. All right. And you don't think he has the Washington cleared out, and also in another issue, another thing, if he starts, if things getting messy with the indictments that you think are coming, and maybe not 60,000 or whatever, but dozens, you're thinking that they may try to pull something in Washington, and why not have it cleared out a little bit so less people get hurt if it gets nasty? Am I thinking that right, or is that some crazy thing that I'm just dreaming up?
Well, in my opinion, I think it's more about the wall, getting the wall done.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's more about that.
Okay. All right. Okay, Kevin Shipp, your website is fortheloveoffreedom.net. You can't miss this book on the front page. I'm just going to put people onto your website. Do you have like a newsletter or a donations page or a sign-up page? Do you have anything on the site that I can also link to for people? Because you're fighting a deep, dark, ugly battle yourself.
Yeah, well, what I do is on Twitter, and it's at Kevin_Shipp, SHIPP. I put out regular updates on what the shadow government, deep state, is doing, and expose that almost daily, so people know what's going on. So people can go to that for kind of current events that I'm researching and alerting people to, and that's been really growing. So I'd encourage people to go there also.
Well, how do you fund yourself? That's what I'm asking you about. Do you have a sign-up page? Do you have something that you charge for? No, so that's free. So more free stuff.
Yeah.
So that's free. You're going to give me a link to that, your Twitter account?
Yes.
Okay, send me a link for that.
The link for the Twitter account is at Kevin_Shipp, SHIPP. We have a donation page on fortheloveoffreedom.net. Of course, the CIA destroyed my retirement. I've been doing a lot of this pro bono.
Wait. So you're going to send me a link for your Twitter?
Yes.
And I'm going to put this after the interview, in the after the interview section. You're going to send me a link for your donations page. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Okay, and then you're also on your page. You can click on your book cover. Here's what it looks like, folks, and it's back ordered, and that helps you out also. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. The book's really been flying out, helping us quite a bit. Yes.
Okay, so I'll put all that stuff. You'll send me those links, and I really appreciate you're a patriot. Thank you for coming on USAWatchdog.com and giving us your appraisal about what's going on and what went on with Operation Phoenix, and that which you broke on my channel. Which is I'm happy that you broke it, but I'm sad about what it is you broke, which is a horrible atrocity of murdering 40,000 people in our own government, the CIA involved in that, which is stunning. So thank you for coming on and being a patriot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Always good to be with you.
Okay, thanks a lot. Kevin Shipp, for the loveoffreedom.net, his book, get it right, From the Company of Shadows, everything you want to know about the deep state, which is real. He's an expert on that and a lot of other things. Kevin Shipp, thanks for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.